Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us on this pretty grim Monday afternoon. I hope everyone's well. Obviously, not too phased by the coronavirus and getting on with as much as they can, as well as they can. But thank you very much for joining me. My name is George Byrne, and I'm a UAV strategist here at Copters. And today, as you'll see from the title, we're going to be talking all things Mavic Series. So the Mavic sort of commercial level and upwards, and onto the new Mavic Enterprise Advanced, which is just coming out in the next couple of months. We'll have a couple of good videos just to showcase exactly how it's used, what you can achieve with it. But I want to make it as interactive as possible. As you can see on the, I think it's you should see on the right hand side, there is a chat. There's also questions. You know, fire them into me, and I'll either try and answer them as soon as I see them, or we will save them for the end, where I've actually got a Q&A section. But I appreciate you all joining us today. It's quite a big topic, the Mavic series, especially for the hobbyist side, taking that next step into commercial work. Because if the Mavic 2 Pro, a lot of people will own something like that. It's a bit of equipment which does have a lot of capabilities, and obviously we'll get onto that in due course. But without further ado, I'll slide on. So yeah, as I say, I've sort of narrowed it down to three of the main systems that are being used at the moment in the UK for the commercial sector. I think the big one that everyone will know is the Mavic 2 Pro, which is the drone in the top right hand corner there. It's hit the ground running, really. There's not a lot else I can say about it apart from it's a fantastic bit of kit. It's come out, and it's really taken not just the DJI's stake in the market, but the photography side of the world. It's really taken it by storm. Obviously, their collaboration with Hasselblad has been a huge help. Just before I do go, if anybody is having any problems with audio, just try refreshing the page, and that should work. I've been told I've got a face for radio, so hopefully my voice is all right for you guys. I wouldn't want you to miss out on that. Secondly, we've got the Mavic Enterprise Dual, which was DJI's first steps into the Mavic series, looking more at the thermal side of things. Quite a search and rescue application drone with some really strong ties towards the inspection side of things. Just realised, me telling people to refresh probably won't hear them, but I'm sure if you if you refresh the browser, I'll just write in refresh. Brilliant, thank you very much, Thomas. Yeah, as I say, the Mavic Enterprise Dual was the first steps into the thermography side of things, and yeah, it was a huge aspect for the search and rescue type of guys. So we're really excited to see their next evolution of the Enterprise, and that is the Enterprise Advanced, which you see on the bottom right there. There's been a lot of talk about this for the last near enough last 6 months, but we've not really seen any proper information until the last couple of weeks. We're still awaiting some really good case studies and some really good content to be produced. But looking at the specifications, looking at what the camera is boasting, I'm able to present you some data for some similar equipment, which will give you a really good idea of what you can achieve. Now, moving on, just a quick one on copters in general. Obviously, we're based here in the UK. We've helped over, I think it's close to 2,000 or even more now, organisations become a commercial entity and be successful with the use of drones. Obviously, as it says there, we're a full 360 drone solution provider. So when we say that, it's the actual equipment, consultancy, training, software, and then everything else on top of it. So unlike some of our competitors who just do the equipment, maybe some training, we do everything in between that. So we've obviously got a very committed sales department and customer service team, as well as our training guys actually, who are always on the phones. You know, if it's ever got a question about new regulations, which I'm sure a lot of people do. If you've got some questions about the new drones coming out, or new techniques about collecting data, some of our product specialists are the absolutely the right people to speak to on this. So as you see at the bottom there, you know, obviously DJI is one of our biggest manufacturers. You know, with a gold level enterprise dealer here in the UK. Obviously, we deal with Parrot, like likes of the Parrot USA or the NAFIs that you'll have seen. Flyability for the confined space Helios 2 and Helios 1 system. We also have Wingcha, along with LiDAR USA and ASCAR, which are more along the industrial mapping, and then also Flare, which is actually the thermal manufacturer for the Enterprise Dual 2. Now we'll talk a little bit about the Enterprise Advanced and what thermal camera that's using a little bit later. And then just an example of the software that we provide in Pix4D. We also do Ava/Scopito, and then we also have a couple other software providers that we really do support and trust. So on to the next slide. A couple of customers that we proud to work with and continue to support. Quite aimed at this webinar in the fact that it's industrial inspection to a degree, included with survey, which is what a lot of the intro level business start packages we do, especially with the Mavics, really do work well for. Myself, I work closely with utilities, natural power, oil and gas and renewables, and so that's sort of my background and area. But obviously we do a lot with survey, construction, and even search and rescue. My colleagues are very committed to their industry specifics. So without further ado, we'll get on to the first area of topic, and that is the Mavic Pro 2. Now, as you can see there, it's basically an off-the-shelf bit of kit, as a lot of the DJI equipment is these days. And in general, drones they're not designed for drone pilots anymore. They're not designed for drone enthusiasts. They're designed for engineers. They're designed for people with an application. You know, we have every day, you know, asset owners saying, "Oh, well, I just need to inspect this roof, but I'm a bit nervous to start flying a drone." At the end of the day, drones are now designed for these people who maybe don't have any experience in flights, but they are looking for a platform that they can use to get data from. Because at the end of the day, it's the data that people are really interested in. It doesn't matter how you get up there and take the imagery. Obviously, you've got to do it safe. It's got to be cost effective for yourself. But as long as you can achieve the data that is required, and I'm sure you'll see if you're on LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of people boasting that they can get, you know, great imagery. It's as simple as getting a camera on a drone into the air. And what's great about the Mavic 2 Pro, I know I mentioned there briefly, was the safety side. What the chap on the left is actually pointing at is the collision avoidance sensors. Now, if you're just getting into drones, or you're just looking at, you know, putting your toe in the water, having these collision avoidance sensors is really useful, not only from a safety point of view, but also just from a basic flight instruction point of view. You are then now able to maneuver around close objects. If you are looking at a roof survey and you're looking to find, you know, identify gutters and see the conditions of these areas, it's a good tactic to have, to use the basically the sensors. If you imagine it's like a car and it has parking sensors, the drone has optical avoidance in all directions. So essentially what that means is you shouldn't be able to get too close to a building or to a location without it flashing up and letting you know about it, essentially. And so what you'd actually see in the bottom of the drone is basically a bit like you have on a car. You have like a beacon or a siren. This will show you red, green, orange, different like color-coded distances away from you. So you always know where you're at. Obviously, flying under regulations, you should always be in line of sight. But sometimes you need to concentrate on the controller. And if you're moving in close to something, it's very difficult to keep going back and forward. So you just concentrate on the controller, obviously within line of sight, but having the assurance is going to give you some really good peace of mind. Just quickly before we go on the thermal side on the software, there's a couple of questions that have just come in. I'll be answering them on the thermal application drones. Because I think the software side of it's a really interesting point of view, and I think a lot of people will be interested in the new Mavic Enterprise Advanced software that it's using. And we'll go through that in a bit. But essentially, I do have a quick video on the Mavic 2 Pro, purely on the aspect that it's a let me have a look if I can get this uploaded, just to show you a bit on the actual equipment itself. It's always nice to have some, a video just to actually see it. So let me just play this for you.
With superior light and color performance.
So everybody
at DJI, true innovation is seeing the bigger picture. Every iteration is the culmination of all that we do to bring you the very best. Here's everything you've been waiting for and beyond. This is Mavic 2. The aircraft comes in two new editions, Mavic 2 Pro and Mavic 2 Zoom. Both cameras utilize DJI's latest 3-axis gimbal technology, ensuring smooth, stable footage in any situation.
Mavic 2 Zoom is all about dynamic
Mavic 2 Pro commands a powerful 1-inch sensor, offering you greater image quality with superior light and color performance.
The 48mm focal
Co-engineered with Hasselblad, the new camera houses an adjustable aperture lens for more control over your lighting environment. Captures stunning aerial photos at 20 megapixels with extreme detail. Mavic 2 Pro supports a 10-bit.
Don't be fooled by.
So, yeah, thanks for the feedback. I'll remember to mute the mic in future. But basically what you saw there was the Mavic 2 Pro alongside the Mavic 2 Zoom. Now the Mavic 2 Pro, what's really great about this is obviously it mentioned it's teamed up with Hasselblad. It teamed up with Hasselblad, so they've taken a world-renowned camera manufacturer and they've put that onto their, because don't get me wrong, DJI are state-of-the-art in drone technology. They are the best of the best when it comes to creating drone technology and having the relay to have strong signal, battery length, everything like that. They are the Apple of the drone world. Now they've reached out, and that's what they're great at as well, is creating partnerships. One of the partnerships they did was with Hasselblad. Obviously, I actually think they bought them out in the end, and they incorporated their cameras onto the Mavic 2 Pro. That means that you're getting a lot higher definition, a lot more megapixels in a single image. Now, if you were to translate this into inspection, this means you can stay further away, you can stay at a safer distance, and you can stay at a safer point and take a single image. And then when you get back into your ops room or wherever you're looking at this data, you can then interpret that at a higher rate. You can zoom in post-process, and what you're going to be able to achieve is you're going to get more pixels on certain cracks. So obviously you've seen where you can zoom on a photo and it starts to get a bit grainy, starts to see the bigger squares. Having larger megapixels, and especially for a drone of this value and of this size, having a 20 megapixel sensor is a huge win for photographers, but also for inspection engineers just wanting to throw a drone up. Now, it also mentioned about the Mavic 2 Zoom. Now, I've got a couple of videos on the Zoom later on in relation to the Enterprise Advanced, but having that Mavic 2 Zoom, in idea, it's a good application to have an optical lens which basically zooms in like a telescope. However, personally, I would always go for the higher megapixel, because what that'll allow you to do is when you get back into the office or wherever you're going, you've got higher quality data. Now you've got 20 megapixels with the Mavic Pro 2. With the Zoom version, it's 12 megapixels. So you're actually losing out on nearly half of the actual data quality. Yes, you can zoom in a little bit, but for what you're looking to achieve and what you're going to be doing, you want to be concentrating on getting as much information from single photos or from videos as you can. And that's really utilizing the actual camera that you've got itself. So the Mavic 2 Pro for me, having that 20 meg is, yeah, it's quite game changing for the photography industry, but also for, you know, inspection, anytime taking imagery or video. And this is essentially what you can do with all of the Mavics. So this is called Ava. This is a software that we do, but essentially this was actually done with a DJI drone, and it takes, you know, a lot of photos and then it plots them on a map. So as you can see here, you've got all of this imagery, and this will work with any of the DJI equipment, because what the DJI equipment does is whenever it takes a photo, it's time stamped. And when I say time stamped, it's stamped with the actual time that the photo is taken. It's also stamped with the coordinates. It's also stamped with direction, height. So when you input that information into a software like Ava, you can see where all of those images are overlaid on a map. So for the likes of inspection, in likes of doing a roof survey, where potentially you need to see different imagery from different areas, and if you're taking a lot of photos, going through every single one of those photos can be a bit of a nightmare. It can be really time consuming, and you can sometimes get lost. And believe me, I've had to do that in the past, where I've gone and done demonstrations, or I've gone out flying and I've got back and I've got about 200 photos and think, oh dear, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Having a software like this allows you to actually import that coordinate into a software and see exactly where it is. Now, if you look at any of our business starter packages, you'll usually get a couple of months subscription to this. So be sure to, if you're talking to any of the sales guys here, or even to any of the trainers or customer service, ask about Ava. You know, it doesn't hurt, and it's a really good bit of kit. And what essentially it allows you to do is to create reports. Now, this is what you see on the actual, when you click on any of those little green or blue arrows. Now, this is the individual image that you can then annotate. And you can do all of this with a Mavic. You can do all of this with a Mavic Dual. It is literally a drone with a camera at the end of the day. And this is some of the great software that it could be used in. Obviously, you can use the likes of Pix4D as well, creating maps or 3D images, point cloud density files. Now, those are more mapping and survey, so I didn't include that in this presentation. Mavic Air 2, I'm sure it does. The only thing is, it's still a low grade megapixel camera. So I just be careful of that. You're obviously going to have to fly close if you want to get good data. But yeah, I've seen some good things on the Mavic Air 2. Obviously, you know, it's on the Mavic 2 Pro series, but yeah, good bit of kit. So moving on, we'll go on to the next unit, which I obviously described at the start. Now, if anybody's got any questions, I should be able to see them, but we will try and answer as many of those as possible. I can see a few about the RTK module, the Autel Evo. Yeah, I'll get to that. So yeah, I think we'll go on to the next one, which is the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual. Now, for anybody who hasn't seen this drone, it's been out for just over a year, I believe, maybe 2 years now, and it's actually using the Flare. Yeah, webinar will be recorded and it'll be sent out to everybody afterwards, so everybody will see it. So don't worry if you have to go or you can't hear or missing stuff. It's stuck on our YouTube channel as well. So yeah, all good on that. Now, the Enterprise 2 came out with collaboration with Flare. And what that uses, it uses a visual camera and a thermal camera. And what you can actually do is, it's called Flare MSX, and it overlays the thermal data and the visual data. Now, what this gives you is it doesn't just give you a thermal image, but it also gives you a lot higher detail. So if you're looking at, say, the side of a building, and you're trying to get some really good imagery to give to your client, or you're just trying to see, heat loss, you can identify where the windows are purely with the heat temperature, because they're going to be a different core temperature. But you can also see higher levels of data. Now, I'm actually just going to skip to a slide here, so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This is actually the relay that you see from your smart controller or your mobile phone or your iPad, whatever you're using. And I think this has been used in conjunction with the fire department. Now, with the MSX feature, MSX, if anybody didn't catch that, it is a feature where they overlap visual and thermal. It's a thermal tool which has been used in different industries, and it's just purely come to the drone world. Now, you can overlap this, and what it allows you to do is to see the sides of buildings, allows you to see writing on walls, and it just gives you a little bit more information. Now, the reason they've done this, and not to obviously to pick at this drone and its camera, is the thermal camera is not the highest of quality. It's still relatively, middle of the path, but what it allows you to do is overlap it, and it gives you a lot more detail. Now, as well as that, the Mavic 2 Enterprise also comes with some really good functions, and this includes the spotlight, the speaker, and the beacon. For the likes of search and rescue, it's huge. Obviously, if you're flying in darker areas, or there's areas where there's a bit of shadow, or it's undercover, having the spotlight is a really good addition, especially if you can then use the visual to capture that. Obviously, the speaker for inspection is not a huge use case, but the beacon certainly is. Obviously, it's a safety function if you've got buildings around, or you've got people working with cranes, with that such, just making sure that everybody can see the drone from below and from on top. And then also you've got the smart controller, which is now coming as standard with most DJI drones, especially the Mavic series. Now, this is ultra bright, so even working I know I had a customer who was working out in Dubai recently, or over in Saudi somewhere. It was obviously very hot, very bright where they were working, and they were able to get the job done. It's the worst feeling when you're trying to work on a mobile phone and you've got that glare. It can be really difficult to pick things out, and it can put a bit more pressure on you, make it a little bit harder to operate. Now, I believe I've actually got, and if I can pull this up, that'd be brilliant. A little bit more on the thermal side of things. So let me pull this up now, and hopefully everybody can see this.
What's going on, guys? Billy here, and today we're going to be putting the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual to the test in what I believe is its strongest use case scenario, and that is search and rescue. Now, I made a video a couple of weeks ago about the use case scenarios of the DJI Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, but I wanted to give search and rescue its own separate video because I think it is an important topic, and also I think this is one of the best drones to get the job done. Before we get into how this thermal camera can be of help during search and rescue missions, we should look at the aircraft itself. The specs that make it so good for work like this are its flight time of 31 minutes, which means you don't have to waste time to keep landing and swapping batteries. Its range of 5 miles over OcuSync 2.0 is also helpful because you can fly further with less interference. And the final thing that makes this the ultimate search and rescue tool is its size and ease of use. It fits in a small case that can be transported easily and set.
But what he was going into information on was the isotherms, and what it looks like from 400 feet, which is a hell of a high distance for the likes of inspection. Obviously, it was a search and rescue application, but it overlaps quite nicely. Now, the use of isotherms is a really good feature, because if you're doing a roof survey and you're looking for hotspots, you can set this isotherm to any temperature that you like. So as soon as it finds part of the roof which is at a certain temperature, which is an anomaly, it'll actually notify you, and it will show you, and it'll ring up, and it will say, here it is, this is what you've been looking for, which is a really good feature for inspection, because it means that you're not having to be totally observant at all points trying to find everything. You can fly over and you should be able to spot it. And then you can do a second flight if you find something and get that information in a little bit more detail. Now, this drone, for the likes of search and rescue and likes of basic inspection, it is fine. You know, it's a good bit of kit. It's a great drone with a good camera on it. But the DJI have taken on board some great advice about the Mavic Enterprise 2. And that being that they've started to incorporate higher quality data imagery, higher quality cameras, such as the FLIR thermal. They've actually started designing their own thermal cameras, and they've done this on the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. Now, the Enterprise Advanced is set to be released in about March time. And we are really excited about this. It is going to be a good bit of kit. Yeah, so if you've already purchased the smart controller, you can buy the drone on its own. It comes with the controller that you put your phone into. That comes as standard, so that could act as a really good backup. But where was I? I was talking about the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced. Now, this is going to be a good system, but they've started designing their own cameras. And for the likes of customers like yourselves, this is a really good thing on the fact that the price is now a hell of a lot cheaper. We're comparing the level of quality that the new Mavic Enterprise Advanced is boasting. This is the top spec of thermal camera. We're talking 640 resolution, which is near enough double the previous version. Talking 30 hertz resolution refresh rate, which means it won't be so staticky, CCTV-like. It'll be very fluid, and it'll make it look near enough seamless when you're flying and looking at the camera. But it also means that when you're doing this inspection, you're going to have a top-rate thermal camera at your disposal in your camera bag. It's going to be a small, compact bit of kit, but with a really, really powerful thermal camera. CE marked laws, yeah, I can see people are voting on that. That is up for debate. We still haven't got the go ahead from DJI, but I imagine it's probably not going to be, which is a hell of a shame, because it would have been a really good first drone for them to do. But never say never. It may be announced before it's released, so we will see on that. So I'll just show you a quick video again. And just to answer that question quickly, yes, the new thermal camera is going to be radiometric for the photos, and it will record radiometric video, radiometric photos, not video. So the data you collect will be radiometric. Everybody can see that. So yeah, as you could see, the actual drone itself is very much a next step on from the advanced, the Enterprise, the Dual, sorry. It's going to still have the ability to attach the 3 attachments, but it's also going to have the 4th ability to stick an RTK module on there. We're talking maybe about £500–600 for this. Now, what you're probably going to tell me is, you know, the actual drone itself isn't good enough for survey. And you'd be right in thinking that, purely because DJI have come out with that. We would never say really anything under 20 meg is, you know, to a degree, great for survey. But what this will give you is, for an inspection side thing, it'll have smart inspection features. So what that means is, if you're looking at something, say the side of a wall, and you're zoomed right in with the digital zoom, and you're looking at, say, a crack in the brickwork, or you're looking at some rust on an area, you can actually record exactly where that drone is with the RTK module and where the camera is pointed. So every time you come to this point, you don't have to spend hours looking for something that you know is there. What it will do is it will capture that moment, that precise centimeter accuracy, and every time it will fly back to that same point. Now, for an inspection where you have to do maybe a roof survey and you've got a customer who's potentially got guttering issues, or they've got an issue with one of their roofs, and it can be a bit of a nightmare picking out the right shot, you can basically set that as a preset. And every time you go back to site, say it's every couple of weeks, or you're on construction site and it's a weekly job, press that one button, it will fly up to the same point and it will zoom exactly where you want it to. Yes, it will work with the tripod, I believe, so it will connect to the wider network, or you can use a network license. So all of the imagery and where the drone is actually capturing imagery from is a centimeter accuracy. But I think the bigger points are labelled right there. You've got that high resolution thermal, which we've got a little bit more on in a second. We've got the dual vision, so it's no longer skipping between the individual panels. So on the traditional Mavic Enterprise 2, you've got the thermal, or you've got the visual, or you've got an overlap. You can actually have one side by side, so you can still see exactly what you're looking at, flying in an RGB setting, so a visual setting, which is pretty useful for pilots. But then you can also just move your eyes instead of having to press a button, which can get a little bit tricky. The zoom, which I will get to, I've got a good video of a similar drone, actually less spec drone, which I think you'll be really impressed to see. That's going to be a huge time-saving exercise, but it's also a really high-powered zoom camera. Obviously, the flexibility of having a small bag, unzip it. You can take this on long walks. You can get this into areas where potentially carrying a big M300 case would be difficult. Is really going to be useful for people. Obviously, the accurate position is compact yet again, and obviously the dual vision. Now, I will say on the just before we move on, the weather restraints bit. Now, it hasn't been IP rated, but it can do 10 meters per second wind speed. In the grand scheme of things, it's not that impressive. And as sort of an educational webinar that this is, I don't want to just push this drone and give you benefit after benefit after benefit, because at the end of the day, I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't tell you about the major constraints. And those really they're not going to be good in bad weather conditions, like your matrices or your ACE cores, something a little bit more hospitable. So when you look at the Mavic Enterprise Advanced, you've got to remember that the actual drone itself is a fair weather flyer. So if it does start to get quite windy, or it's at the end of the day, it's not going to be a unit for the offshore teams. It's not going to be a job for coastal monitoring or wind farms. It's going to give you a really good picture, and it's going to give you a really good idea of what's up there with a thermal camera. And using that RTK, it's a really good next step on from the dual. Now, with that being said, the thermal side of it is brilliant. When it has so to give a bit of perspective on this, DJI released the M300 RTK last year, and that came with the H20T. Now this is a drone and a camera setup which is truly phenomenal. I think it's probably the best DJI drone that the market has seen in a long time, and I think it is really here to stay. Now, what I will say is the thermal capabilities that this is boasting is identical to that of the H20T. Now, H20T's got a couple other different characteristics which are really impressive, such as the laser range finding tool, which you can now get dimensions and angles and actual distances from a long period away. But it's the same thermal visual camera, and with 16 times zoom, you can actually zoom in really nicely. Now, I have actually got a video here, which I am quite impressed with myself, even though I did fly it. And this was myself flying with a water utilities company, and we were doing solar panels. Now, this is with the H20T. Now, bearing in mind the specs are identical, I imagine, and I'm only showing you this because the Mavic Enterprise Advanced hasn't released any data as such, which I think is really impressive, or not so much impressive, but which will give you a grasp of the data that you can receive. Now, this really will. So let me just play this for you, because in the grand scheme of things, this will show you exactly what you can achieve with the Mavic Enterprise Advanced thermal camera. Now that should load up here. And hopefully you can still hear me. So obviously you've got the zoom capabilities as well. So you can use both of these together, both thermal and visual zoom, and you can show them side by side on your controller. So if you do find anything with your thermal camera, you can zoom in and you can find exactly what that problem is. As you can see, I've just switched to the thermal side of things, and it is really good high resolution. This is about 50, 60 meters high. And as you can see there, we are seeing actual hotspots where certain panels are overheating. And as for people who aren't realizing exactly how good that is, but the refresh rate is 30 hertz. So that means that the camera is constantly refreshing at a very high rate. So it's no longer laggy. It's no longer, very bitty. It's very fluid. And this means that you don't miss anything. It means that it's a lot easier to watch, a lot easier to see. And now you should be able to see, and this is me zooming in with a thermal camera, and this is exactly what the Mavic Enterprise Advanced will boast. Now you can zoom right in, capture the data you need, find exactly where it is. If you use something like Ava, the visual side, you will be able to put to Ava and estimate exactly where that image was taken, which is going to be a huge benefit to a lot of people. And I'm really excited to see how this new camera system works, because at the end of the day, it's going to be game changing for a good portion of people, especially that in the solar panel industry, where you don't really want to spend a huge amount of money, and that's really where the huge the big benefit does come from, because it's a great price point as well. And we'll get to the price a little bit later, but if you're looking at something that's going to do everything, it's going to be a workhorse, it's going to be good in all conditions, you're looking to spend at least 10, 15, 20 grand if you look for a full setup. This is coming in at just under 5 grand. So if you can time it right with the weather, you can make sure that you're being safe with the drone itself. This is going to be a truly fantastic little bit of kit for the price. It's right in that sweet spot where it's not too expensive, but you also know that you are spending a bit of money, that you're going to get the right equipment for the right price. And a little bit on that zoom, as we saw there, it does say 48 megapixels. Now this is actually taken from DJI themselves. Now I'll be honest, it's not 48 megapixels, it's actually 12 megapixels. But what that means is you can capture 4 images together, and what DJI will automatically do is stitch them together. So a little bit misleading, but what this means is it has a 4 times lossless zoom. Now that's double what the Mavic Enterprise Dual has, but then it also has 32 times digital zoom. So if you're flying at 50 meters, you're going to be able to zoom right in and capture some really good imagery. Can I just double check everybody can still hear me and stuff? If you just want to stick stuff in the chat, I know I'm rambling a bit, but I just want to make sure you can all hear me. That'd be brilliant. Yeah, fantastic, good stuff. Thank you. So yeah, exactly what that means is it's going to be a really good, powerful zoom camera. Obviously, it's not going to be anything like the Z30 or the H20 with 20 times optical zoom. But digital zoom also has a really good, impressive standpoint, which will be very close to this. Now, this is done with the Z30, but from the distances, it'll be, and from my experience, it'll be very similar to what you can achieve with this video that I'm going to show you right now. So hopefully everybody can see this. So this is, it's actually done with a 210 and a Z30. Just let us know that you can hear me. Yeah, oh, good, and you can see the video. So essentially you'll be able to to use the controller itself to zoom in and out to capture some really good imagery. So if you're cautious of getting too close to a building, or you can't actually get close to it, you'll be able to stay at a safe distance and use that zoom functionality to see exactly what you need. Now, what's really interesting about this is the guys who own this building. We were actually doing a demonstration of how the drone worked and how the camera was used. They weren't aware of the problems and the ingress that they were finding, and they were actually having leaks on this roof. So really interesting to stick a drone up and show them exactly what they were missing. I think there was some difficult conversations to be had after I left then. But yeah, as you see, even at that height, you're still going to get some fantastic imagery. Brilliant. So moving on, and as I say, the actual dual vision of the system a little bit different to what the dual does, in the fact that you're getting both screens side by side. You do have the ability to overlap, but for this, having visual IR is a really good system. And as you can see, this is produced by DJI of the Mavic Enterprise Advanced. So yeah, really good bit of kit. Anybody who's not aware of how DJI works, you have the battery life across the top, you have connectivity, all of your features where you can change the palette, so it's black and white there, but you can change it to rainbow, white, hot, anything you need it to be. You can set it to. It's got the isotherms top left, so as soon as you see a temperature which you're looking for, it'll alert you, and then obviously all of your flying stats at the bottom there as well. Now, for me, this is a sort of our big recommendation going into 2021. Looking at sort of under £5 for the base unit alone, a couple extra grand for training and accessories. I think it's going to be a really good system. The MSX, I believe it doesn't have the MSX, but I may be mistaken on the Mavic Enterprise Advanced. The two dual, the DJI one, it does. Whereas I think the EA just has the two side by side, but at a resolution rate of 640, it really does combat the need for it. So just a little bit to close from us. Really appreciate everyone joining us. In conclusion, get in touch with us if you've got any requirements for drones, consultancy, software, training. This is what we pride ourselves on doing across the country. And we're really keen to work with as many people as we can, be it forestry, utilities, education, search and rescue. We've got a sector there for you. But we'll go on to any questions we've got at the moment. So we've got good question on the megapixels from Matt. When are we going to get a full frame sensor? Now the full frame, the Mavic 2 Pro is full frame, full inch, and it's good 20 megapixels for photography and inspection, really good. But for the likes of the Mavic Enterprises, still a little bit off. I'll try and answer some of the actual questions that are coming in. Ava can be used on any of the visual stuff. I believe that the thermal is in the works at the moment, or Scopito as it is. On the Scopito side, it can work on the XT2s, and you can actually get the thermal from that. So Ava in general, yes, it's fully accessible. The Autel Evo 2, now that's a drone which is recently at the market. Not fully aware of pricing on it just yet, but I believe we are in the works to become a distributing partner of this. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be an interesting drone to come out. On the software, Fleur Tools is a good system for the H20T. Sorry, for the XT2, but for the H20T and the new EA, which is coming out, you'll be looking at DJI thermal analysis. Now, this is a free software, fully usable, but if you ask any good thermographer, there's plenty of softwares out there. You just got to do a bit of research on what one works best for you and what your application is. Yeah, so improved precision, the RTK side of things will help you do that, both on landing, takeoff, but also getting to a point in the air and actually focusing in on something, which is going to be a really good bit of kit. If you do have any questions, by the way, that you want me to answer and I don't answer them, there's my email address. I'm more than happy to sit down and have a conversation with you as well. Just shoot me an email and we'll book something in. Obviously, this webinar will be released on our YouTube. It's all been recorded. Yeah, for training purposes, but also for you guys to have a read through later on. Ava works on near enough any drone. It's any drone, to be honest. I can't think of a drone which doesn't have, I mean, some of the Telos or the smaller drones, but most Mavic, most DJI equipment will have a time-stamped location. So anything like the Phantoms will definitely work on the Ava software. Mentioned the smart controller that comes with the advanced and also available on the Mavic 2 Pro. Asking module we've gone through a little bit. Yes, so another great feature, the Mavic 2 Enterprise Advanced is cross-compatible with Mavic batteries. So if you've already got Mavic 2 Pro or Mavic Enterprise Advanced, you've got loads of batteries, which has made you, be able to fly all day. They will be cross-compatible, which is a great benefit for because I know and I sympathise with a lot of people. DJI are prone to release a new drone and it'll be brand new batteries, brand new kit, but for once they've done the right thing and they've released a drone which has that ability. LCAS is a tricky one. We'll pick that up separately. I'd recommend speaking to either Pete or Jamie in the office. Main reason is it's a training qualification. The RTK module is not compatible with the Mavic 2 Enterprise Dual, only the EA, which basically means inside the actual Enterprise Advanced, that's got the drone itself. It's all hardwired and it's not something that it's just an external part. So yeah, get in touch with us about LCAS. Give us a call on the sales line here at Copters. But I really appreciate everybody who's joined us. I think it's a lot of information to take on as a basic overview of the Mavic systems, but hopefully we've answered a lot of questions. If you do have anything, fire them over to me on my email just there, and hopefully we can have a good conversation. It's always good to hear from different people on what different applications they're doing. There's a wide range of stuff. As Gary says, they're the 300 reel game changer, but we are seeing different applications which are phenomenal, even from deer stalking to different inspection methods. It really is a really exciting time to be a part of the drone industry. So hopefully we can keep that going. We're still in its infancy stage, as we like to say. So, lots of big organizations and corporations are now opening their eyes to the safety side and the time saving side of drones. We will see this in the future. But for now, really appreciate you joining us. And we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much, guys. Have a good one.